Hey everyone, it's Harley here. I thought I'd make a quick video just to talk about the history of Materia Magica. I've been playing since 1996, I believe, maybe 97. Back then I was 13 years old, and I finally got the internet at home. I previously had to go to like a library to use the internet. And so I just got the internet at home, and I was into role-playing games and anime, and I'd found something on the internet called Anime Muck, M-U-C-K, which was sort of like, it was a text-based game, similar to Materia Magica, but basically there was no stats, there was no races or classes. It was basically a role-playing game. You'd log on, and you could chat. It was sort of a chat room slash mud, I guess. Like you'd have a character, you could set descriptions, you could travel around through different rooms, you could do a bunch of different things, I guess. But there was no mobs that you kill. There's no killing. There's no leveling. There's no classes. Anyway, I played that for a little while, and at the time, used Telnet, and maybe Zmud. But anyway, eventually I came across a client that you use to connect to the game called Pueblo Client. And I believe that in Pueblo Client there was like a list of various games you could play with Pueblo Client. And on there I found, well, at the time it was called Moongate. So I found Moongate, read the description, and I thought it sounded pretty cool, so I logged on and checked it out. So when I first started playing in 96, 97 or so, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never played anything like it before. Well, I mean, I was familiar with Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer and all kind and console role-playing games and single-player, role-playing games. So I started playing, and at the time, there was I want to say there was probably 300, well, a couple hundred people who played at once. And right now we have 112 online, probably half are idle. But anyway, so I started playing, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was awesome. It was, I don't know. I guess I don't know what exactly made me fall in love with the fact that it was online, and it was a role-playing game, and it seemed like there was a lot of things you could do. So people who play now, here's some couple things that might be surprising to you if you didn't play way back then. So when I first started playing, I want to say it was version 3.2. Right now we're on version 4.422. So it was like version 3.2, maybe it was 3.4, I forget. And back then, I want to say there was 13 clans. I think Clan 13 was a clan called Pyros. I don't even know who I had for my first character. Basically, I was terrible at the game. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea, how to plan my character, what was what. I just played, and I got a bunch of friends to play too, who were also 13 years old or so, and we had a lot of fun. So yeah, there's 13 clans. It was much different back then. You didn't have to memorize any spells. There was no such thing as scrolls or spell books. You just practice spells and cast them. I believe it was based off of, I guess for those who don't know, there's sort of this timeline of muds. I believe in the early 90s, or maybe late 80s, I don't know. I think the first mud was called Merc, M-E-R-C, or maybe it was Deku mud. Let me see what we got here. That's not what I wanted. 1991. Anyhow, so Moongate at the time was based off of, basically there was code bases. So these people who made these first MUDs, they released their code so that others could make their own MUDs based off of those type of MUDs, and they'd also modify them. So there was online message boards where people would share different like modifications they had made to their code, and um, there was a whole. It was I'm guessing it was a big thing because back then there wasn't any. There was no MMORPGs that had graphics or anything like that. So MUDs were very popular, especially on college campuses, and with people, adults who worked with computers and who were into role-playing games. So I believe Moongate at the time was based off of something called ROM, R-O-M, and it was, well, it still is, but anyway, it was created by a guy named Vassago, or Vassago, V-A-S-S-A-G-O. I don't know if he's not online anymore very often. But anyway, it was Visago and a guy named Darkstar. They were both the highest level IMs, level 250 implementers. So they ran it, and there was a huge amount of players. It was a lot simpler back then. Like I said, there was only 13 clans. The world was much different from how we know it now. It played much differently. It was a lot faster. You could probably get to like level 240 in a month or two if you knew what you're doing. People used to always just level out in the wilds. You could go out there, people would have they'd set up triggers and just like kill hill giants from level like third class all the way to 240. Just kill hill giants, and if that got boring, you could go to what is now Beltane and go to the desert and kill, I forget what they were called, sandworms or something like that, and you could kill those. So anyway, basically, a lot of people became level 240, and there wasn't much endgame content. So what ended up happening was there was what's referred to as like the Great PK Wars. Basically, there were two factions that you either belonged to one or the other, and you would just PK each other all the time and try to do runs to get gear. And most of these clans are PK clans, so we basically fight each other 24/7 while trying to do runs and trying to level up new characters. So the two factions were centered around two old powerful clans, Enigma and Dark Order. So Enigma thought of themselves as the good, like this forces of light, where Dark Order were the forces of evil. I want to say originally Dark Order wasn't, they only allowed Fays, F-E-Y, the race Fey, only allowed Fays into their clan originally, I believe, and it was started by, well, I might be wrong. Anyway, all of this might be wrong. I was 13 years old, who knows, and it was a long time ago. I want to say a character named Messiah and Tombstone were the guys who started Dark Order. And Enigma, I don't know who started that, but some of the main characters were like Zim, Shadowlight, Gax, Paradox, I can't remember. There was a bunch of people. Actually, before that, I should even say, before my time, even before I started playing in like 96 or so, there were some characters who were regarded as old school even back then, and they were special because they had things that nobody could get. They were sort of grandfathered in. So there was a couple characters, namely Shadowlight, who is the leader of Enigma, and Messiah, who is the leader of Dark Order. There's a guy named Chrome, either KROME or KHROME, I forget, and a couple others who had like 5,000 hit points, maybe give or take, and a bunch of other stuff. So they were like, well, not immortals, but they were basically the strongest, most powerful characters, and they led each faction. And so basically, the game consisted of leveling up as fast as you could and joining one of these two factions and fighting each other all day long. And part of this, I think, was because there wasn't a lot of things to do in the game. And also there was a global shout channel. So basically everybody could communicate at once over this global shout channel. And there was a lot of, what do you want, smack talk, I guess. People would be making fun of each other because of like real life things. Like, oh, you're a fat blah 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 or whatever. People would be calling each other out all the time. And so anyway, as a 13-year-old who started playing, I wanted to join the Dark Order. When I first started playing, for some reason I thought the Dark Order was cool. Just the name Dark Order. I had a Fae character. Actually, I remember I was like level 35 Fae Wizard or something. Actually, I think back then it wasn't even called Wizard. It might have been called Sorcerer. I remember going out one time with Messiah because I told him I wanted to join his clan, and he took me out and he's like, let's see what you can do. And he took me and we fought Murmur for a while, and I was acid blasting it as a level 36. Well, he was tanking as a level 240. Should they have 241 back then? I forget. Back then, there was no way, actually there was 241, but there was no way to become a 241. It was before my time that you could even become a 241. I think they had like basically a hard-coded like sort of special quest of how to become a 241. They took it out for a long time. It's basically, actually a lot of this time while this was going on, the Immortals were working on coding version 4.0, which everybody was like, oh, 4.0. It's like it was a huge deal that this 4.0 was going to come out because they were going to change everything. And how am I doing? I guess I can do that. Anyway, I guess I'll do a quest while we chat here. So while they were working on 4.0, they basically didn't do anything to the game for a long time, so everybody just PK'd each other. So anyway, it was a great time. What else was different? So, yeah, you couldn't become an Archon. If you got to 240, for some reason, instead of saying just plain old hero, it would say hero whoop, like W-O-O-P. For some reason, whooping was a huge thing. Everyone loved to whoop back then. Anyway, there was hardly as many zones. Obviously, they still had the PG, and they still had the Tower of Riga. They had donations, I think, or did they? I don't think they even had donations. Questing there was hardly any quests. There was hardly anything. So we just fought each other all the time. We'd be like in forms of 8 or 10 or whatever it was, and just fighting each other all the time. And I thought it was great fun. I don't even know. And then 4.0 came out, and they changed everything. So things that were like super powerful in 3.2, suddenly you weren't as powerful anymore. So when 4.0 came out, I quit. A lot of people got pissed off, and they were like, well, I don't like this game. It's not the same game I know. And that's all I had to do. Visit. Anyways, a bunch of people quit, but the game became better. They really made it a lot more. There's a lot more depth to the game now. There's so many more things to do. The combat is so much more advanced now. There's just so many more runs. The world is just a much huger place. But anyway, I think a lot of people miss those times, the 3.2. The people who were around, a lot of them are gone for good now. A lot of people have new characters, so who knows? Probably I've run into a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, I was so-and-so back in 3.2, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was so-and-so back in 3.2. So it's like now nobody even talks about it or remembers that long ago. But sort of that's the origins, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's anything else good to talk about from back then. I guess back to the story about joining Dark Order. Anyway, Messiah took me out, and he was like, and I was level 30-something Fey Wizard, and I obviously was crappy. But he was like, well, it's like, if you really want to join, he's like, what you gotta do is you have to make fun of this guy named Gax, Gaxx. Make fun of him all the time on Global Shout, and we'll let you join. So I did, and I remember getting zotted all the time. There was an imp named Celestia who would always, she was sort of a social imp, it seemed. She would kind of, make sure everyone was playing nicely. And so I remember just shouting on Global Chat about how Gax was a fat, lazy person, and I don't even remember what I said, but I probably didn't have any very good insults since I was only 13, had no idea what I was talking about. But eventually, I guess this was even before like the clan war really started beefing up, because the clans Enigma and Dark Order, they started bringing in other clans into their. There wasn't even really a real alliance, like there wasn't an official alliance system. But basically, they would either get other clans to join them. So it was like Enigma. Who else was with them? There was a clan called Dragon. There was a clan, Caitiff, I think. They called themselves the Triad. I don't know who the real Triad was exactly, because there was actually probably 10 or 12 clans or more at this time, who were all part of that sort of alliance. And then Enigma, or Dark Order, they let me in finally. I made a new character. They finally let me into their sort of, I guess you'd call it like minor league clan. Like it wasn't, if you weren't good enough to be an Enigma, they sort of had these other clans. So I joined this clan called Illuminati. I think it was clan, it was in the teens, I think, the clan number. It was run by a guy named Cardis, Khardis. He ran it, and there was a bunch of people from Singapore in the clan. They were all college students. I remember being 13, and they'd be like, I'd be playing, and they'd be like, yeah, we're going to stay up all night long, drink soda, and hang out in the computer lab and play Moongate. And I remember thinking, oh, that must be awesome. Anyway, so that began into Clan Illuminati. And towards the end, though, how'd that work out? Anyway, I quit my clan after a while and joined Clan 24, which was called Clan Rage. Or was it 23? Clan Rage. I joined that, and that was like a great time. They were all good friends of mine, and we played all the time, listened to, crappy 90s, alternative music. There's a guy named Varchild who introduced me to a band called Fear Factory. I thought that was awesome. Anyway, they were on Enigma's side eventually. And right before 4.0 came out, I had a couple 240s and was able to participate in the PK. I wasn't nearly as elite as some of these people. I remember back then they came out with a weapon that's now gone from the game, but it was called a whip called Evensong, which came from somewhere on Erda Isle. And it owned everyone it was kind of unfair. I don't know who made it. Probably people in Enigma had immortals, and made this item because everyone in Dark Order was a Fey or a city, and Feys are weak against iron, and are they fighting Dracons too? Anyway, the whip called the Evensong was a whip, and back then there wasn't nearly as many weapon types, so whips were pretty. A Hellfire whip is one of the most powerful weapons. And also Urband's Gigantic Axe of Souls is one of the most powerful weapons. The Dracolich's Hellstorm Dagger is one of the most powerful weapons. A lot of people had Minotaurs back then as well. I remember if you had a Hellstorm Dagger and you backstabbed someone, you could deal like 3,000 damage to a Minotaur if you were good. Anyway, yeah, the whip called Evensong. It was an iron whip, so it dealt tons of damage to the phase, and it also did ice damage, or something like that. Anyhow, we fought each other day in and day out. We'd usually fight in a room right in the either the blacksmith shop or the runic temple. We'd just sit in there and taunt each other and be like, "Come on, pussy," or something, and we'd taunt each other, and people would jump out and go back out into the garden or whatever and wait for someone to come out and enter combat. Anyway, yeah, we did that a bunch. Spent many nights fighting people, playing Moongate, leveling up back in middle school and high school. And 4.0 came out and everything changed. I quit, everybody quit, and then we all came back. But and since then it's been, I don't know, whatever, 10 years, maybe more than that, 12 years or so since 4.0 came out, and it's been through a bunch of changes, but it's still a great game. Better than it was back then. But anyway, we need more people to play, so if you like playing Moongate, you better share these videos somewhere. And yeah, spread the word however you can. Anyway, I guess that's all for now. Hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of history here. Let me know if you have any questions about how the game used to be back then. Leave some comments, or if you have any other ideas for any other game videos you want me to make, let me know. Anyway, that's it for now. Talk to you guys